So the 2025 NBA Draft Combine is in the books, and so much has changed throughout this draft intel we got over the last week. So today I'm going to be updating you guys with my mock draft post the NBA Draft Combine. And I love the Draft Combine every year because you start to hear more about some players that I think were lumped into some positional groups, and they're now really making a name for themselves, either the way they tested out, how they performed in the drills, or just the intel you're getting from some of the meetings or workouts that they have been doing so far. And it's also a great time because you get to do your post-lottery mock draft, which you guys really liked, which I dropped right after the lottery, and now we can update with that intel. We are going to be doing a full NBA mock draft today. So 2 rounds, because it might be the last mock for a little bit, at least a solo mock, because I will have some collab mock drafts coming. So let's hop into this. Number 1 overall, I do believe, because he was such a standout at the combine, that Dallas is going to take him on. Nah, I'm kidding. I know Nico could do something a little bit unorthodox, but it does seem like they are taking Cooper Flagg no matter what. They are not trading Cooper Flagg for Giannis Antetokounmpo or any big name this offseason, and Cooper Flagg is going to be a Dallas Maverick, which is just still insane to think about, that they had Luka Doncic back in February and now Cooper Flagg after the NBA draft in June. And I am interested to see what they end up doing this offseason at the point guard spot. Sham said at the combine, this is also intel we'll get about current NBA teams, that they're looking for a point guard this offseason. Maybe that's going to be Dennis Schroeder or Chris Paul in the free agency market. Maybe they end up making a trade. Either way, I do think Cooper Flagg showcased some pretty good initiating ability, both out of the pick and roll and in the half court overall. As a passer last year, he could throw lobs very well to what he did last year with Kaman and Malik Brown, and he could do it next year to Derek Lively and Anthony Davis. But yeah, we all know that number 1 overall is going to be Cooper Flagg. Number 2 overall, either with the Spurs or a different team, it's going to be Dylan Harper either way. Jonathan Givony of ESPN said the Spurs are pretty much locked in on Dylan Harper, number 2 overall. Now things can change. Maybe Milwaukee calls them. What is your price for Giannis Antetokounmpo right now? But unless it's Giannis going back to San Antonio, in my opinion, they are not moving this pick whatsoever. They believe that Dylan Harper could play out there with De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle at the same time. And Dylan Harper was a good off-ball player by the metrics last year at Rutgers. He can be a good shooter. He's got really good size. And honestly, you just take the best player available. You don't go over need than best player available in the NBA, in my opinion, unless they're a neck and neck prospect here. But in my opinion, it's a clear prospect 1 in Cooper Flagg and a clear prospect 2 in Dylan Harper. That would be another good asset, like I said, in a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. But for right now, I do think that the Spurs will be making that selection at number 2. Here we are at number 3. Now, I think Daryl Morey is going to be a little bit more opened up to the idea of trading this pick, and there'd be a bunch of teams that they could trade down with. I think they could call up Utah, Washington, New Orleans, or maybe Brooklyn to make a selection here. Because honestly, I don't think Ace Bailey gives them the best chance to compete next year. Now, in the long term, I think they can be patient and develop and invest that time and resources into Ace Bailey's development as a long-term shot creator, primary ball handler. And I think he does have good defensive potential at the NBA level, but you got to be patient. But what if Philadelphia would prefer somebody that could step in as a defender right now in VJ Edgecombe? So honestly, what I'm going to have is a trade here. I think this is a perfect trade partner. I think the Brooklyn Nets could be trading with the Philadelphia 76ers. It is an in-division trade, but hey, we saw back in 2017, Philadelphia trade with Boston 1-3, and yeah, Boston got a lot better end of that deal. So we're going to have Cam Johnson go to Philly in this deal. I love this for Philadelphia. They could pull off basically Kelly Oubre, and it would be Andre Drummond in exchange for Cam Johnson, and they would move down a couple spots. And I think they can get a better plug-and-play guy at number 8 than somebody that needs to be like a full-on shot creator, primary ball handler at number 3. And I also think they could snag another first-round pick out of it, so they're going to get 27 in this trade, because it's a pretty noticeable trade to move up there to number 3 for Brooklyn. And I think that's where Jordy Fernandez can get somebody you could build around on the offensive end of the floor in Ace Bailey. The sky is the limit for Ace. That he needs to go to the right organization. And I do think Jordy Fernandez and their timeline in Brooklyn, where they could be a little bit more patient, works out a lot better for Ace. He's not my number 3 prospect in this draft. I bumped him down a little bit, but I think that's what could happen going into June's draft. Here at number 4 for Charlotte, I really like VJ Edgecombe there in Charlotte. I think they need somebody that can defend, that could be out there in the backcourt in between LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. Just another great athlete, somebody that can run up and down, catch alley-oops, knows when to cut, knows when to slash. I think the shot is going to be a little bit of a work in progress, but I think it gives Charlotte another nice young asset with a lot better potential than what they did in round 1 last year with Tijon Salon. All right, so here we are at number 5 with the Utah Jazz. I'm still on the idea of Trey Johnson here in Utah. He's a big-time shot maker, kind of like Ace Bailey. He can knock down some difficult shots. Texas, like Rutgers, was not a great team last year outside of one of their top freshmen. And Trey Johnson, I think, could be a little bit of a facilitator, a very good athlete, a great pull-up jumper, which he displayed in high school and at Texas last year. I think it does get into an interesting fit in the backcourt with Collier and Keontae George, two guys I'm not super sold on long-term. And Johnson, I think, gives a little bit more upside than those guys right now. So on the clock here at number 6 for Washington, people will point to the DMV connection and the Baltimore connection and the Bub Carrington connection of Derek Queen and the Washington Wizards. But honestly, I do not think that he would go that high right now. And I do think New Orleans would be very interested at number 7 to take Con Knipple. So this is where I think Washington could just accumulate a couple more draft picks. They could still get somebody they like, and they can get maybe the 8th overall pick and the 35th overall pick in exchange for 40 and 6. So they do move down 2 spots, but they know that they're getting one of their guys, either Caspers or Jeremiah Fears or maybe Derek Queen, and they can move up a little bit in the second round for doing so by 5 spots. So we're going to do that, and Philadelphia gets, I think, a perfect fit in this draft. Con Knipple at 6 with Cam Johnson on your team feels a lot better than Con Knipple at 3. We saw Bilal Coulibaly get traded with the Pacers and the Wizards back in the 2023 draft for seconds involved, so I don't think there needs to be a first involved in here by any means, and I don't think Washington would take Con at 6. And after doing a big Duke deep dive this week, Con is one of my favorite players in this draft class. A lot of strengths, not a lot of weaknesses. I think in a pinch could even handle the rock in the half court and be an initiator if somebody's in foul trouble or if somebody gets like a short-term injury. Con can step in, get the offense involved, and can feel comfortable going forward. He's an elite shooter. He can knock down shots, plays off of 2 feet very well, great footwork, very good basketball IQ, and I think could fit in like a glove over there in Philadelphia. I think Ace Bailey could be fine long-term, but I think it's a little bit more safer to go Con Knipple. And I also added Cam Johnson to the team, so I think that's a home run draft for them. Here at number 7 for the Pelicans, I think we can go for somebody that can play the point guard position. With DeJounte Murray most likely being out half of next year, I think Caspers could be somebody involved there, or Jeremiah Fears. I think it comes down to what New Orleans is trying to build, and I think Caspers could be a little bit better upside. I still have him ranked ahead of Jeremiah Fears on my big board, who I'm going to have going number 8 to Washington. I think Caspers could be in a very good situation. We're in behind DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum long term, but he also gets to throw alley-oops to Zion Williamson and Yves Missi, which is going to be great for him. And I think he's a little bit better of a shooter right now, which they could use, than Jeremiah Fears, who I'm going to have go number 8 here to the Washington Wizards, somebody that can navigate ball screens, orchestrate the pick and roll with Alex Sarr going forward, and he can give them kind of their franchise point guard spot, especially if they look to move Jordan Poole this offseason, and he needs a little bit of time to grow as well. He is not NBA ready, and Washington would be a good spot for that. So here at number 9 for the Toronto Raptors, I think this is an easy pick here. I think it's Kaman Mayu-Watch, somebody that is still a very raw prospect because he just started playing basketball a few years ago. And if you watch anything he did at the NBA Africa Academy, man, he's a completely different player right now. He looks way more comfortable and way better mobility moving up and down the floor. Now, I do think he needs to work on some of his vertical movement. Sometimes his hands can be a little bit horizontal when somebody's attacking him, and that could get him into foul trouble at the NBA level. But I think he's got a good relationship with Masai Ujiri, who's going to prioritize his development. Completely different talent than last year's Oleg Chomsky pick at the end of the first round, but it's a similar mold to what Masai Ujiri wants to take chances on. It's what he did in the 2016 draft with Pascal Siakam coming out of New Mexico, and I think he could do that with Kaman here, who does have some Rudy Gobert tendencies to when Rudy Gobert came out of France. He can catch alley-oops at a great level because he's super athletic and just a massive human being out there. And Scotty Barnes can pass it very well. So can Emmanuel Quickly out there. And I think he could be a nice backup to Jakob Poeltl going forward. So we're on the clock here at number 10 with the Houston Rockets. Maybe this is going to be a Kevin Durant trade pick or something like that. But I like the idea of Colin Murray-Boyles over there in Houston. You can have a defensive duo with Tari Eason and Colin Murray-Boyles and then throw Amen Thompson with them. Yeah, you're probably not scoring on that trio anytime soon. And maybe they do need to move Easton in a trade this offseason. I don't think they will, but if that happens, Murray-Boyles can step in right away for this team. He's somebody that had to handle the ball a lot at South Carolina. Not a great team around him. Now it can be more of an off-ball role, cutter, slasher, physical guy inside, and can guard almost every position on the floor very well for somebody that's going to be a rookie next year. So 11 here with the Portland Trailblazers. I think there's a couple different guys they can end up going. I like them going a front court guy, and I think it's 2 guys between Derek Queen and Carter Bryant. And I'm going to have them go Carter Bryant here. I think Chicago would be all over Carter Bryant at number 12 if he falls there, but I think he just has more versatility out there than Derek Queen. He's going to be a better shooter and defender, in my opinion, long term, and that's what Portland is trying to build over there. You had him with Denny and Sharp and Kamara. You have a nice foursome of wings over there in Portland, but I think that's fine for Chicago. They end up getting Derek Queen in this draft, which if Derek Queen falls to 12, I do think that's going to be the selection. Him and Matas Buzelis, very talented big man that can handle the ball at their sizes. Now, I think there's still question marks with the outside shot, especially for Derek Queen. I think he even mentioned that he needs to get into a little bit better shape towards the NBA season. But if he does, man, he already moves very well for somebody at his size. He's got a good handle. I don't think he's going to be a great defender out of the gate. And is he going to get that many post touches? But I think putting him in an environment with a already veteran point guard, basically 4 years into his career, and Josh Giddey, that can get him involved and can work the pick and roll for him, I think that'd be great for Derek Queen's development. And I think that's who they would take there at number 12. So here we go, 13 for the Atlanta Hawks. I think there's a bunch of different guys they can go with here. And I like Asa Newell still in this 13th spot for the Atlanta Hawks. He could also be in rival with Thomas Sorber with this pick, but I think Newell is a little bit better as a lob threat for Trae Young, can roll very well to the rim, and I think has better floor spacing potential than Thomas Sorber. I didn't really love Onyeka Okongwu's shot coming out of USC, and I think the Hawks and Quinn Snyder over the last few years has done a good job developing that. I think that could be on the track for Asa Newell, who could be another big man for that team. Just another athletic big with Okongwu and Mohamed Gay over there. So at 14, we got the San Antonio Spurs. A couple different options that we could end up going with them here. We had Dylan Harper at number 2. So I believe they would go Thomas Sorber here, who doesn't need to play right away. They're going to have a lot of guys that need playing time this year if they don't make a trade and consolidate some of their roster depth this offseason. Sorber, when healthy, I think could be the second best center rim protector in this draft. After Kaman Maluwatch, his versatility, his ability to switch on the defensive end of the floor, and he can react very well. If he can get beat off the dribble, he's going to respond very well and can get a chase down block like Kaman did, and we saw that this year in the Big East for Thomas Sorber. Unfortunately, his season was cut short, but now you can have more depth to Victor Wembanyama at the center position, which you don't really have the best depth in the world after him right now. And he can also, I think, play out there with Wemby as well, because Wemby can space the floor, and he could just be another good bruiser rebounder for you. At 15, one of my favorite fits in this draft, Danny Wolf to the OKC Thunder. I don't have Danny Wolf as a top 15 player in this class, but if he goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder here, he'd probably rise up on my big board because I think he fits this offense so well, and he's not the greatest defensive big man. He doesn't recover the best on the defensive end of the floor, but he flows so well offensively because he's 7 foot. He basically played power forward last year next to Vlad Golden. He could do the same with Chet Holmgren or Isaiah Hartenstein right away, and this team is going to get very expensive this offseason depending on what happens with J-Dub and Chet's contracts, but I assume that they are going to get rookie maxes. Shea's going to get the super max. I don't think they pick up the Isaiah Hartenstein third year of the contract and keep him. Maybe it's a trade, but Danny Wolf could be their big man depth going forward. 16, a lot of good players fell here for the Orlando Magic. I think they can go shooting, and that's Jace Richardson. I'm going to have Jace a little bit higher on my big board, and he's not a great passer right now. Like, if he was a true initiating point guard, man, this would be the best of both worlds because I think that's what they need, but they also need shooting. But Jace Richardson is a fantastic shooter in this draft, and I would take him over Walter Clayton here at 16 if I were Orlando. He should go a little bit higher. 17 for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think there's a couple guys that could end up going, but I love the idea of Nick Clifford or Rasheer Fleming here at 17. I'm a little bit more sold on Rasheer Fleming because of the wingspan, because of the athleticism, and he can run up and down the floor very well on both ends. Could be just an active threat, could replace Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who they may get priced out of in the offseason, and he could just be a wing duo threat with him and Jaden McDaniels out there. 18, we have the Washington Wizards on the clock. I took Jeremiah Fears a little bit earlier, so I'm going to have them go Noah Essengay here. They really like Bilal Coulibaly coming out of the Mets 92 team with Wemby back in 2023. They could take Essengay here, who I think could have a chance to grow over there in Washington. The front court isn't the most crowded group in the world, and he did have a nice end to the Ratio Farm season this year, shooting the ball, and I think that would be a nice high upside pick for the Wizards at 18. So 19 here, we have the Brooklyn Nets. We ended up going Ace Bailey at number 3, so we did make that trade with the Philadelphia 76ers. Nolan Traore here, who I think is going to rise up a little bit more once we hear about the individual workouts. Had a very good end to the St. Quentin season shooting the ball, and I think this is the best point guard available. I like him more than Yegor Demon. I like him more than Ben Seraph. And with Fears and Kasparis off the board, I think Traore could be their point guard if they don't end up getting one earlier in the draft. And Ace Bailey, Nolan Traore, it's funny because these were like 2 top 5 picks going into the year. So if you would have told some Nets fan preseason that you got Traore and Ace Bailey, you would have said, like, how bad were the New York Knicks this year? So we're on the clock here at 20 with the Miami Heat. Easy pick for me. It's going to be Nick Clifford out of Colorado State. There's a chance he goes a little bit higher than this, but somebody that can crash the glass very well on both the offensive and defensive end. His shot did improve over the last few years at Colorado State. He could have been like a top 45 pick last year, stayed at Colorado State, and I think really helped out his draft stock. NBA ready for this team that may not have Duncan Robinson on the team next year, and you probably don't want to give that many minutes to Terry Rozier anymore. So on the clock here at 21 with the Utah Jazz, very easy pick. Let's keep the Utah kid currently in Utah. He's going to go from BYU to the Jazz. And I think this is a team that would prioritize Igor Demon's development, and I think it's worth a shot at 21. I think you can go Demon or you can go Liam McNeely. If Demon could be just like an average shooter at the NBA level, his ball handling ability at 6'9", 6'10", to what he measured at the Combine would be well worth a first-round pick for Utah, who went Trey Johnson earlier. 22 here for the Atlanta Hawks. They went Asa Newell. They're at number 13. So I don't really want to take a big here. Walter Clayton does intrigue me as a little bit of a scorer off the bench. Will Riley as well. I think this is where Liam McNeely can go, who actually showcased fine defensive ability at UConn this year. He's going to get a lot of wide open threes playing with Trae Young there in Atlanta, and I think that could be good for him out of the gate. We'll just see if the shot's legit or not. It was really good to start off the year at UConn. He got injured. Maybe the usage was a little bit high for him. Maybe he prioritized different things, but he got good looks. So if Lee McNeely could just continue to knock down those good looks like he did earlier in the year at UConn, like he did at Montverde last year, and maybe like he will in the workouts, I think this is definitely the floor for Liam McNeely in this draft, and it's really good value for the Atlanta Hawks. 23, the Indiana Pacers with Sorber off the board. I think they could look at Joe and Behringer. I do like Maxime Reynaud better than Behringer overall, but I think Behringer will be a better defender than Reynaud. So they're going to go the other French big man. They're both from France, and Behringer does have, I think, pretty good defensive upside, is going to need some room to grow. So you hope, and I assume they're going to bring back Miles Turner next year for the long term. Behringer could be the second or third string center, but could eventually be a good backup for Miles Turner, and then maybe one day replace him. You never know. So we're on the clock here at 24 for the Thunder. If they didn't get Danny Wolf at 15, I would have loved Maxime Reynaud. So let's draft Cedric Howard. I talked about it on my Just Ballin' podcast, link to that in the description, earlier this year, that he was one of my favorite sleepers for this draft process. Not a lot of people were talking about him, I think, on a national scale. More so in the draft circuits, people were definitely talking about him, just because he only played 6 games this year at Washington State, but somebody that tested like a freak at the Combine. Massive hands, very good ball handle for somebody at 6'5", 6'6", good wingspan, super strong, very quick, good three-point shooter at Eastern Washington and at Washington State. Really cool story from D3 basketball to playing now. And I think the Thunder just go best player available, and that could be Cedric Howard. If I had to predict, maybe they consolidate the picks a little bit, or maybe they trade this first for a future first down the line that has some protections on it. They could end up going like Hugo Gonzalez or Noah Penda for a developmental guy, but I love Cedric Howard in OKC if they want to trim the roster down a little bit this offseason and to save some money long term. Orlando ended up going Jace Richardson at 16. I would have taken Coward probably there 100%. So I think there's also a couple guys that could end up going. I like Maxime Reynaud, a center that can roll very well to the rim. And I think he's just as offensively like talented as maybe Mo Wagner right now. And maybe they do end up moving Wendell Carter Jr. in his contract this offseason. So I'm going to have them take a chance on Will Riley though. I think the shot making ability at his size is very intriguing. And I don't really expect the 25th overall pick for them, no matter who it is, to be like an impactful player right away. But he can learn behind some very good wings like Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. We'll see if Caleb Houston is going to be on the team long term. We'll see what their vision is with Tristan Da Silva down the line or Jett Howard. I think Will Riley is a little bit better potential than some of those guys. The Nets here at 26, I think we can also just go high upside with one of these picks. And I think they could take Ben Serif. I think you're just hoping him or Traore will work out as your long-term point guard. And I think maybe if Traore could become a league average shooter, they could play together out there. And having two guys that can initiate, that can move well without the ball, which I think is very nice. That's just where they come from. Overseas, they always move without the ball, and they could build that culture over there in Brooklyn, and they can maybe be cutters and slashers, and we'll see how they can work getting basically Ace Bailey the ball. The Sixers get the 27th overall pick with that trade down, which I love for them, because now we added Conkinable, Cam Johnson, and we're going to get a little bit more size over here for sure. I'm going to take Maxime Reynaud from Stanford. I like him more than Condon, Kalkbrenner, Janai Broom in this draft. Very, very skilled offensive big man that could space the floor at 7'1". He's also like a genius as well. He was in one of the best high schools in France. He was like an elite swimmer in high school. He's an elite chess player and went to Stanford, a pretty good academic school. His head coach left. He decided to stay because he was loyal to the program, and he had a very good senior year at Stanford. Very good shooting touch. Maybe not the best defender in the world, but hey, you could be complimented by Joel Embiid or a Dembona in that front court. And I think just his ability to space the floor is very encouraging. I think this is Walter Clayton Jr.'s slide. For him, I think he can go a little bit higher than this for sure. It's just I had Jace Richardson go at 16 Orlando, so I didn't think he was going to go with their second pick. But Walter Clayton Jr. could replace maybe some of the Drew Holiday minutes, but could fit that Missoula ball. And he's not going to be a great defender, but he could take a ton of threes. And I think that's what Boston would like. 29 for the Phoenix Suns. Couple point guards I do like, either LeBaron Philon or Tahad Pettiford. And I think just Philon being a couple inches taller will end up making him go a little bit higher. And here at 30 for the LA Clippers, I also like another point guard in Tahad Pettiford, who was a major combine standout. Reminds me a little bit of Mike Conley in his early days at Memphis, or Mike Conley coming out of Ohio State. Very good touch and floater. Just he's a little bit on the smaller side, but that shooting for him looks perfect. He could also get money going back to school. 31 for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, we ended up getting Rasheer Fleming at 17 and Yaxel Lendenberg at 31. I mean, there's a interesting story that Jonathan Givony said on Kevin O'Connor's podcast. Lendenberg played like 18 hours of video games in like high school and his early days of college. His mom kicked him out of the house, and then it was like, you got to go to a basketball camp. He ends up playing, I think, D2 or D3 basketball, and then he makes a name for himself last year at UAB, even better this year. Committed to Michigan, one of the best teams in the country, where he can make a lot of money or he can go to the draft. And I just want to get another wing there in Minnesota. 32 here for the Boston Celtics. What's going on with the center rotation right now? Just because could some team outbid them for Luke Cornett this offseason? Could Al Horford retire? They probably want to trade Kristaps Porzingis. Let's get Baylor Shireman's teammate Ryan Kalkbrenner. That could, be a good teammate and just another big body going forward with like Neemias Queta next year, as they're going to be in the post-Tatum era. But hey, I do like Kalkbrenner and I do like Walter Clayton for the Celtics in this draft. 33 here for the Charlotte Hornets. I think this is a fairly easy pick. I want to preach defense going there, and that's going to be Noah Penda for me, who I think could end up going in the back end of the first round. One of the best perimeter defenders in this draft. Very physical guy inside. And for Charlotte, I just want to take guys that can defend as well. We got Edgecombe at 4. We got Penda at 33. And I'm going to take a Due Theroux out of Arkansas. Can get out running in transition like Edgecombe, which I would love for this team. High energy guys. And I want to change that culture over there in Charlotte. So at 35, we had that trade with the Sixers, so they moved up 5 spots. We took Fears and Essengate at 8 and 18. I'm going to get Alex Condon, who could still end up going back to Florida. He hasn't made his decision yet, but he can move well at the 4 or at the 5. Could have a nice two-man game with Alex Sarr going forward. The Nets, who we've already taken Ace Bailey, Nolan Traore, and Ben Serif. I would take somebody a little bit on the bigger side here. And I do think they could end up going with Hansen Yang, who was a combine standout. And I think it's going to really rise up people's draft boards. So I'm going to have Hansen Yang actually here. The Chinese center played in the CBA last year, and he showed out at the combine. Really good touch for somebody at his size and at his age. And I would love for him to go to a place like Brooklyn, because we'll see if they move Claxton this offseason. We'll see if they re-sign Day'Ron Sharpe. The Pistons' first pick here in the draft, a bunch of guys they could end up going. If they don't think they need to play somebody right away, that could be Hugo Gonzalez. But I think this would be a really good Tyrese Proctor situation. Just a smart guy. Doesn't really turn the ball over a lot. I think he could be out there with Jaden Ivey or Cade Cunningham at the same time. And they can maybe explore a Marcus Sasser trade market this offseason. San Antonio here at 38. They don't need somebody that needs to step up right away. This is an easy Hugo Gonzalez destination where he can learn and develop defensively in the G League going forward, because he could have made a lot of money playing college basketball. He stayed at Real Madrid, but never really played that much. And he really killed it in like under 17s against Cooper Flagg and Ron Holland a couple years ago and the under 18 circuit. So I think there is potential there, but he is definitely a project. 39 for the Toronto Raptors. I ended up going Kaman Mayuwatch. Boogie Flan went back to school. Xavier Lee went back to school. So I'm going to have them go Cam Jones. I just think somebody that could step in right away for them like they did last year with Jonathan Mogbo and Jamal Shed. And he has a very high floor in the NBA. I think he can go a lot higher than that. 40 here for the Philadelphia 76ers, Miles Bird. He had a good combine as well. I think they can look for some size on the perimeter. Nice court vision, good basketball IQ, and could maybe be Isaiah Joe 2.0 for them, even though they didn't really keep him going forward. And hey, Daryl Morey found something in Justin Edwards last year that he really liked. So on the clock here for the Golden State Warriors at 41, I think they just need somebody that could flow in this offense very well, that could shoot a little bit and could also defend. And I think that's Chaz Lanier, who tested out very well. This guy is a very strong, fast, and tall player just for his position on the floor as a wing. Good shooter last year at Tennessee and is NBA ready out of the gate. Here at 42 for the Sacramento Kings, this is going to be their first pick in the draft. I think they just need big man depth. And I like a lot of bigs, like you saw, Condon, Raynell, Hansen Yang all over Janai Broom. But I can't see Broom going lower than this. And if Sacramento is going to try to compete next year, they need somebody that can help them right away, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Jazz here at 43. They ended up getting Trey Johnson at 5, Yegor Demon at 21. A lot of these guys you see are going back to school. They could look at RJ Lewis, but I think they can also go for some wing shooting, and that could be Alex Tui. Like I said, I could have went Liam McNeely instead of Yegor Demon earlier, so they could snag Tui here, where I don't think he's going to fall that far in the second round. 44, the Oklahoma City Thunder, another team that could look at some project guys that they don't need to play. I didn't have them go like Hugo Gonzalez or Noah Penda earlier, so I think they can go Markovic from Serbia, and then they can hopefully develop him long-term, who gets a lot of comps to Alexis Pukaszewski, but better to do that in the second round than where they did that in the first round in 2020. Bulls here at 45. I think they should go somebody on the younger side. They don't need somebody that needs to step in right away for this team. And that's going to be Drake Powell for me. I think he's a big project. I think he should have went back to school at UNC, but also UNC last year didn't really get him involved a lot. He couldn't really drive to the basket a lot. It was a lot of heliocentric basketball around RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau. He was a stand in the corner guy. He's got a really good wingspan. He's a freak athlete, but I think needs to get a better feel for the game. And that could happen in the G League and a team that should be rebuilding going forward. So 46 here for the Orlando Magic. Got Jace Richardson. Got Will Riley. I don't know if there's a good enough big that they could end up going here. I think Lashon Ulbrich, who had a very good combine, could be in play. Rocco Sikorsky as well. I just can't believe Alex Karaban went back to school at UConn, because I think he could have made so much money in this draft and would have been picked very high, just because it's not really a deep shooting class. Carter Knox is still somebody that's TBD going into the draft or back to school. I think Dink Pate, who kind of got screwed in his process. He was in the G League Ignite last year, but had to do 2 years. He couldn't go to college basketball since he technically played professional. So he went to the Mexico City G League team, but I think he had his moments at the combine as well. 47 for the Bucks. I need somebody that can help you right away. I think a little bit of defense, a little bit of shooting. That could be Micah Peavy out of Georgetown, a good cutter as well. 48 for the Memphis Grizzlies. I think we could look at center depth for this team long term, and that could be Rocco Sikorsky for them. And I think the Cavs would have liked potentially Rocco there at 49, but I'm going to have them take Lachlan Ulbrich, who also had a good combine as well. And that's going to be my selection for them. 50 for the New York Knicks. I think this draft fell a little bit, it kind of turned out well, because I think Kobe Brea could be a really good pick for them. I think RJ Lewis, keep him in the state of New York. But Zion James, I think makes a ton of sense. 4-year player at Tulane, was one of the best players on Duke last year. That wasn't a freshman, just a physical bruiser, can get downhill. Not a bad passer either, can run flare actions as the passer and as the primary initiator. Solid three-point shooter, but a great defender. And that's what the Knicks need off the bench. 51 here for the LA Clippers. We got Tahad Pettiford at 30. I would like to snag a wing here. And I think Jameer Watkins, who also had a great combine game on Thursday. He had like 18 points and 6 steals in the first half, including a buzzer beater. And he was just available at Florida State. That had a lot of drama with their head coach. Played every single game for the last 2 years. And I think he can also go back to school. So we're going to have to keep an eye on him. Suns at 52, we went LeBaron Philon at 29. I think they can go somebody with a high floor as a wing that can come off the bench. A little bit of a better offensive touch than like Ryan Dunn had last year. And that's Darren Williams from Texas Tech. 53 here for the Utah Jazz. We went Trey Johnson, Yegor Demon, and Alex Tui. I really like Miles Suzanne out of Houston in this range as well. He's just a good defensive point guard. I'm not sure if they have him in this database, which they do not. So I think they could take the lottery ticket himself, Michael Ruzic, who really did well getting out to the combine and showing himself in front of scouts. Like, it's still just 18 years old, and that's got to be so intimidating coming over to like Chicago with all these top names and trying to perform in front of like a pretty pressurized crowd of like all scouts and GMs. 54 here for the Indiana Pacers. I mean, this is an easy pick with him on the board. He should have gone already, but I think if he slides to 54, this is a great pick. And that would be Kobe Brea out of Kentucky. Little bit like lacks athleticism for a wing defender, but man, it's just a sharp shooter out there, and that's great value. Lakers here at 55. I just want somebody that can help me right away. And I would take a flyer on Carter Knox, but I do think he's going to end up going back to school. And I would take like Eric Dixon here. It doesn't look like he's in this database either. So I'm going to take Carter Knox, who could end up having like a little bit of Max Christie to him long term, or Maxwell Lewis, who unfortunately got hurt this year. This next pick is forfeited. 57 for the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm just going to take RJ Lewis, probably the best player available on the board. 58 here for the Orlando Magic. I think Orlando could just take a chance. It's their fourth round, or it's their fourth pick in this draft. We could take Mohamed Faye. Pretty good athleticism coming overseas. Cleveland at 59. They could also be in the market for a big man as well. I would go like Amari Williams, but it doesn't look like he's unfortunately in this database either. So I think Ethan Amonsa, who could have been a first-round pick last year in a weaker draft coming out of the G League Ignite, played at Perth in the NBL last year. And then here at number 60, we do have the Houston Rockets. I think Hunter Salas will definitely be a second rounder and had a nice combine as well. So that is going to wrap out my post Combine 2025 NBA mock draft. Some really nice fits in this draft. Some risers, some fallers throughout the combine. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you like the pick I made for your team? Did you dislike it? And if you disliked it, who would you rather have me taken if that player was available on the board? Drop a thumbs up if you guys did enjoy that mock draft. That's probably going to be my last individual solo mock draft for a little bit. You guys will start to see the collab mock drafts as well. So let me know in the comments any other creators or just any NBA media guys that you'd like to see me do a collab mock draft with. Let me know down below. Subscribe if you're not already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.